What's up guys, it's your boy Diggy Dash and I'm back with another video. In this video I want to talk about why I think the Kinhank X5 Pro is still the emulation console of choice in 2026. Now I bought this back in 2025. It cost me £191, ordered from AliExpress. They're currently selling for £226 at the moment, so it has gone up in price. But I'm just going to give you a quick run through of the device. I'm going to show you the various features and also the kind of package that you get when you buy the Kinhank X5 Pro. This comes with a 4TB drive. You can get them for smaller drives, but this 4TB drive comes with a reasonable amount of PlayStation 2 games, some of the larger games, and obviously all the other smaller consoles that you can imagine. It does come with this remote control, which you can use to help you exit certain game emulations, such as Wii and Nintendo Wii, that is, sorry, not just an average Wii. Nintendo Wii and a few other consoles. Basically, this is just a typical kind of Android TV box, but it is slightly higher powered. As you can see, it has all the various connections that you need, such as USB-C, has HDMI 2.1, it has a headphone jack, which is really cool. Also has an Ethernet cable. As you can see, it comes with the GameSir joypad, and this is the 4TB drive that it comes with. So I do believe this is a used drive which they just, reused to store the games for this particular console. But it's a 4TB drive, and when I checked it, it had about 256 gigabytes worth of space free. And this is just a USB drive which I use to transfer files to and from the device. So I just plug it in, go into the file management system, do what I need to do to add games to the console, which is quite easy to do. However, to set them up properly is another thing. But as you can see, it comes with a 8 gigabytes of RAM, built-in 64 gigabytes of storage. So it's quite reasonable when you think about it. And also comes with this controller, which you can see the GameSir controller. But anyway, let's dip into it. So this is the UI. As you can see, it comes with Emulation Station desktop edition, which is how you access your games. It's all pre-set up. I think one of the advantages of buying one of these Android TV boxes for gaming is that as a package, it's already set up, it's already scraped. It's very easy to kind of just plug in and play, literally. Whereas if you're setting up yourself, it can take a considerable amount of time, a lot of effort, and scraping. My gosh, you can spend weeks scraping data for the games if you have a large collection. But yes, this is a typical Android TV box, so you can download apps to it. You can update apps. I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't really want to connect this to the internet too much because I'm not quite sure if there's any viruses and such on the drive. But as long as you stay offline mostly, you should be fine. You can just transfer files, APKs to and from your whatever device you use, your Windows device, copy it over, stick it on a drive, stick that drive in the console, and you can update from there. But as you can see, it comes with all these apps installed. I've also added some apps such as Eden. Just giving you a quick showcase of kind of how it looks default. Obviously, you have the settings, and here you can change stuff like you can add Bluetooth, you can add Bluetooth headphones to it. You can, obviously, there's information about the device there. It runs Android TV OS 12, which dates back from 2022. So it's quite an old version of Android, relatively, but it still runs perfectly fine. You shouldn't have any issues with it. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to update it because I'm not sure what it would break. And as you can see, the various Bluetooth devices that you can connect to, which is really cool. But obviously, if you're connecting via Bluetooth, there will be latency. See, I'm just messing around, just kind of showing you what's in the settings. As you can see, we're going to jump straight into it. So this is like a slightly modified version of Emulation Station DE. And as you can see, it loads up fairly quickly from a 4TB drive. It's got a really nice UI. It's nicely set up, nicely laid out. As you can see, you've got the full game list here. So you've got 18,405 games, which is obviously not the largest collection that you can get, but it has a lot of the good stuff there. And I believe, it's not as big as it could be, mainly because they focus on the larger stuff, such as the PlayStation 2 games, which are a bit sizey. However, you can add your own games. But anyway, as you can see, for Atari, you got 537 games, so that's a good collection. As you can see to the right, you can see image of the controller. Atari 5200, you've got 97 games, which again is a reasonable collection. Atari 7800, 67 games. I do think that's more or less a complete collection of Atari games. Atari Jaguar has 43 games, so I'm not sure if there's a complete collection, but it's almost there. Atari Lynx, so you've got 75 games there, which is more or less the complete collection, I believe. WonderSwan, I don't believe this is a complete collection, but it's majority of the games there. WonderSwan Color, another great console. Competitor of the Game Boy, it has 93 games. Again, a great collection of games. I think Capcom PlayStation CPS 1, 42 games, so not quite a complete collection. CPS 1, 36 games, so that's most of the games. I think with CPS 3, that is a complete collection for CPS 3. ColecoVision, 142 games, so I think that's more or less a complete collection, if that's what you're into. Commodore Amiga, I've added this myself, so this is definitely not a complete collection, but it's more, I was just testing how I can add games to the system and how I can get other emulations to work. MS-DOS, I've also added this to the system myself. There's 1,737 games, but that's definitely not a complete collection of MS-DOS games. Final Burn Alpha, I added the game to test, so that's not default system. Final Burn Neo, which is a lot of Neo Geo games and arcade games, 1,742 games. Laserdisc, again, I've added this myself, has 4 games. Intellivision, I added this myself as well, and I don't think it's a complete collection. MSX, I don't think it's a complete collection, but it's a good amount of games for the system, if that's what you're into. MAME, 210 games. This is arcade, so yeah, that. Super Graphics, 252 games. A decent collection there. TurboGrafx, another awesome console you should look into, 106 games. TurboGrafx 16, 45 games. That could be a complete collection. Nintendo 3DS, 482 games, definitely not a complete collection. N64, 264, so that's not quite a complete collection, but a good amount of games in that collection. I say collection a lot, by the way, if you haven't noticed. DS, definitely not, only 15 games. But those games are small, so you can fill that out if you really wanted to. NES, 885 games. I don't believe this is a complete pack. Game & Watch, I did this myself. Game & Watch is one of those things that people just create versions of Game & Watch games, so definitely not complete. Game Boy, I don't think that's a complete collection, but 851 games is a good amount of games. Right, so Game Boy Advance, you got 1,070 games. I don't know, but it does look good. Game Boy Color, which is 596 games. Nintendo GameCube, 623 games. I don't think that's a complete collection, but it's a good amount of games again. NES, 800 games. That's not a complete collection. Nintendo Switch, I added this myself. No, sorry, it had one game added on and I added a couple more games myself. There's only 8 games here. Virtual Boy, 23 games. I think that's more or less a complete collection for the Virtual Boy, if that's your bag. Nintendo Wii, only 33 games. But to be fair, that's a little bit of a tricksy one to emulate due to the controllers, the motion controllers. Atomic Wave, another arcade system, 18 games. I'm not sure if that's a complete collection, but it has a lot of fun games in there. Nintendo CD, 67 games, so I think that's more or less a complete collection for the American market. Dreamcast, 324 games. I'm sure there's a lot more Dreamcast games than that. Game Gear, 334 games. That's a reasonable collection for the Game Gear. Sega Genesis, 932 games. That's a really good collection right there. Master System, 293 games. I'm not sure if that's all of the games, but this, again, a good collection. Mega Drive F82X, 35 games, so I think that's a complete collection. Naomi, which is the other arcade cabinet, 49 games. Sega Saturn, 306 games. Sega Saturn's a bit harder to emulate, but it's a good selection of games. Sega SG 1000, 63 games. Sharp X6800, 296 games. I don't think this is a complete collection. Neo Geo, 118 games. I think that's more or less a complete collection. Neo Geo CD, there weren't too many games for that, but yes, I think that's more or less a complete collection. Neo Geo Pocket, fantastic little console. Only 10 games. I don't think there are many games for it. Neo Geo Pocket Color, not many games for that either, but more, 36 games. PlayStation, 1,826 games. And yeah, that's a good collection, but I'm sure there's like many thousands more. PlayStation 2, 659 games. Again, not a complete collection, but it's got the core of the stuff that you want. PSP Minis, these are kind of like little, kind of almost like mobile games for the PSP. PSP Portable, 800 games. I don't think that's a complete collection, but it's quite sizey. So yeah, that's just a run through of all of the games, all the different games, or the different consoles that are emulated, different arcade cabinets that are emulated via this console. It's nicely set up, as you can see. It's got the fonts, it's got the images, it's got the metadata. In some cases, it's got the video. So it's all been scraped quite nicely. So you have a lot of details about the games that you want to play and the consoles that you want to play from the details in the description for each and every console emulated. And as you can see, you've got some video here on the 3DO. So it kind of shows you images of the games that you're playing. Here's the Jaguar. Now, Jaguar's not my favourite console, to be honest. Like, it's just got such a wonky controller with like a million buttons on it, which is kind of hard to replicate using, normal Joy-Con, joystick, joypad. But here's the Atari Lynx, which is another cool console. And it has a decent selection of games here, like I said. And there's quite a lot of cool games here. Like, one of my favourites is Pit Fighter. And Pit Fighter is one of the games that I remember from playing in the arcade many moons ago. but this is the Lynx version, so obviously it doesn't. They tried really hard. Let's just say that. So yeah, just a quick gameplay just to show you what it looks like. As you can see, it's running like a kind of LCD filter on top to kind of give you the look of the Lynx screen, which is really cool. Right, so here's a Wonder Swan, which is like another, which is a Game Boy competitor. It was like the Game Boy but better, but unfortunately it failed. But it had really good graphics, it had much better screen, much better battery life. It's just a really cool console. You can play it in horizontal, vertical. It's such a cool console. So yeah, just here's another example of what it kind of looks like when it's kind of emulated using this console. It's been upscaled. It's running an LCD filter. As you can see from the sides, it has, you know, the Wonder Swan logo, the bezels. So it's quite an attractive package when you think about it, when you look at it. And I'll just say it here, I'll state it now, that I suck at a lot of these games, because most of these games I only play once or twice. So, you know, this is the first time for me playing some of these games. So yeah, the Wonder Swan Color. Again, this was a Game Boy Color competitor. I think it came out after the Game Boy Color. What was it before? I can't remember. However, as you can see, it just had much better graphics than the Game Boy Color. Much sharper, high resolution screen, sorry. Better screen, had like a TFT screen. It was very efficient on battery. But yeah, just a much better looking console. Has some really great games, but couldn't compete with the Game Boy. Could not compete with the power of Nintendo. And of course, you can see the Dragon Ball Z games on here. Some of them are quite rare. And I don't read Japanese, so I'm just fumbling my way through this. And yeah, literally I have no idea what I'm doing, how this fight works. Not a clue. However, it does seem like a cool game to play. So it's just one of those ones I guess I'll have to play using Google Translate to help me understand what I'm doing, basically. So here we got CPS1, all the classic arcade games. And you know, I have to state that this console handles pretty much everything very, very well. I think the only thing that pushes it to the limit is some Nintendo Switch games, and a few Sega Saturn games. But Sega Saturn is kind of hard to emulate. So as you can see, you got quite a good collection of games. You got some of the additional games that you don't really get in most packs is kind of like the hacked games, such as Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Rainbow Edition, which is the precursor to Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So basically someone hacked Street Fighter 2 and Capcom saw that it played faster, ran faster. It was broken, it was super broken, but it was a lot of fun to play. And they thought, well, this is fun. Let's speed up Street Fighter 2 and make a Turbo Edition. So this game here, well, not this one, but Street Fighter 2 Rainbow Edition, the hacked edition, inspired Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which was a much more fun game than the ordinary Street Fighter 2 because it was simply faster to play, and yeah, it was a blast. Yeah, and just kind of give you a quick run through of the game and how it looks and the reason why it's so cool and the reason why it's quite broken. So as you can see, the fireballs are moving at random speeds, I can actually get in front of my own fireball and attack, which is, you know, that's not quite right. And obviously the opponent, he seems to be changing gender, not gender, but he's changing character on a whim. Gao is now Zangief. But it's so much fun. You should definitely give it a go if you can get your hands on one of the roams. Definitely get with that. But as you can see, as I've been saying, the videos that are playing gives you an idea of what you're going to play, and it's just really cool just to kind of go through this and flick through the games and kind of reminisce on some of the games that you may have played, or some games that you might not have played because you've not seen it before, and you look at them, you're like, this could be a game I can have fun with, and you just jump in. And to be honest, you can spend more time going through the list, checking out these videos, looking at these games, than actually playing the games. Right, so yeah, let's have a quick look at CPS 3. There weren't too many games on this system, but there's some gems on here, such as JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Obviously, you have all the Street Fighters, but I think JoJo is probably one of the more interesting games on the system. Mainly because you didn't really see it too much over here in the UK. I don't believe, in the arcades that is. And I'm a massive fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I just think it's the craziest, most random anime manga of all time. It's just so much fun. And I mean, even in this game, you can kind of see that, you know, it's different. You know, you have a character that is essentially two characters, himself and his Stan, which is a magical manifestation of extension of the character that gives them special powers. But yeah, it's so cool, a lot of fun, really random, and as you can see, it has really great graphics at the time. And this is from like the late 90s, so yeah, it looks good, plays good. ColecoVision, I'm not really into that. You know, it's not really my bag. You know, we're going way back here, and I'm sure there's some real fun games here, but I mean, it's great to have the option. So one day I might go into it and be like, yeah, let's have a go at Donkey Kong. But yeah, unlikely. As you can see, I kind of experimented here with Commodore Amiga. So that's why you got all these Kickstart files, because it took a little while to kind of get this to work. And, you know, like I said, I just literally copied and pasted stuff from my PC onto the USB drive. And found random stuff such as that this Saddam had this insane game, which is just so random to me, that there was actually a game of this guy, or, you know, trying to kill this guy on the Commodore Amiga. As you can see, the bezels are not set up right because they're Sega Saturn. I'm not sure why it's done that, but that can be changed, but I've just not changed it. It's got the CRT kind of filter applied, and you can hear the disc loading noise in the background when it runs, you know, the game, which is kind of cool, but at the same time a little bit annoying because there is no disk drive here. Well, no Amiga disk drive, just a hard drive, and it doesn't make sound like that. But anyway, this is the game. It really wasn't what I expected, but then again, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But it's basically just a 2D side scroller shooter kind of thing that I don't really understand. It's very, very basic, even for the time. I mean, even here, I'm not really quite sure what I'm doing. It seems to be a locked door. It seems like I'm locked down, but I can't seem to escape. And I seem to parachute down into the abyss. I'm not sure what's going on. This is wild. But yeah, I'll probably look into this at some other point. But here's a Street Fighter I tried to upload that didn't quite work out. Final Burn Neo, which is really cool because it has a lot of arcade games, a lot of the Neo Geo kind of arcade games as well. It's such a great collection of games. Interesting games such as Cross Swords, which is like a first person kind of stab them up. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is another classic game that you should really try if you've not tried it before. It's so much fun, especially multiplayer. Everyone knows about Contra, Fatal Fury, such fun beat 'em up. I mean, I have a lot of memories of a lot of these games, and some of these games I used to play in the arcade. My limited pocket money, so I didn't really get too far with them, but always was kind of fascinated and mesmerized. But yeah, here's Pit Fighter. So this is the arcade game that I actually remember playing back in the day. Yeah, it's so cool, so cool. But yeah, I have fun memories of this because I used to go swimming in Elephant Castle. They used to have a swimming pool, and they used to have this arcade game near the pool somewhere in one of the waiting rooms or wherever it was. And I used to go swimming and then go up here and go up to the room and then play the arcade games that were in this room. And Pits Fight was a game that stood out to me because I thought the graphics were absolutely amazing. Because these are kind of like roboscoped kind of video images that have been superimposed into the game. So I thought it looked really realistic, even though, in 2026, it don't look too good, bruv. But it looks really good at the time. I can't remember if there was actually blood in the version that I played, but I remember it was quite a violent game, as you can see. And it felt more realistic than, I don't know, like Street Fighter or whatnot. But yeah, this is lots of fun. Lots of fun. So yeah, let's dip out. Oh, sorry, yeah, we have Moonwalker, which is another classic arcade game as well. So I have Laserdisc here. This is another one that I've added myself. Um, there's not much to say about this because I've not actually got this working properly. I've downloaded the games, but I've not sorted out the games into the appropriate folders or the appropriate folder structure to get them to work. So I'll leave that for another day. Besides, Laserdisc games are kind of boring. To be fair, I just did it just because I could. The television, less said. MSX is kind of cool. Has another good selection of games. But yeah, I'm not really into this this console, this format. I'm not very familiar with it. Let's just say that. Maybe a lot of arcade games, a lot of classic games, a lot of weird games, a lot of games that didn't make it over here to the UK. So it's very exciting to kind of experiment and try these games for the first time. And a lot of these games in the arcade were kind of cutting edge. Consoles at home weren't really pushing these kind of graphics back in the day. Except for the Neo Geo games, because, Neo Geo games in the arcade, put it to home. Yeah, it's one-to-one conversion, pretty much. But yeah, the sequel graphics was really cool as well. A lot of great selection of games. A lot of games that are unique to the console. But Operation Real Wolf is another classic game. Another classic shooter. And to be fair, the language barrier is non-existent here. Yes, it's in Japanese text, but you don't need to understand Japanese to play the game. And the funny thing is, for a lot of these arcades, it's easy to jump into. You could just jump in, add your credits. There's not much of a learning curve. You just shoot, kick, stab, whatever the game requires. Drive. There's no long tutorial, which you get in a lot of games nowadays. The TurboGrafx FX, again, a lot of great games on here. A lot of interesting games, like China Warrior, which is really cool. Yeah, and TurboGrafx was kind of underrated here in this country because I don't think we had too many of those consoles over here, so it's harder to get the games and get the consoles themselves. Most of it was imported. I don't think it was directly sold over here in great quantities. But yeah, China Warrior literally like discovered this game, which was already there today, and it kind of like looks so interesting in the sense that it has such a massive, character sprite. The dude is huge. He takes up like half the screen, which was unusual back in the day. Because back when this came out, like a lot of sprites were kind of small and not as well animated. But this is just a very simple game. You're just kicking and punching your way in a straight line, going to who knows where. But yeah, the large character sprite really sticks out to me. I'm not sure if he has any other moves apart from kicking and punching and getting hurt, but it's just so random. Like rocks are just being thrown at you. Loads of the same character just literally just walking towards you, waiting to get hit. You got like flying sperm, red hot sperm, flying towards you. It's nuts, bruv. It's nuts. And yeah, I'm not having a good time in this game, but fascinating. Very different, unexpected. So we've got a CD version as well, which is more or less the same games, but using CD quality audio and slightly better graphics and maybe some full motion video added to those games to add a little bit of source or reason to buy the CD versions. But generally, I think the CD versions were, even though they were better in terms of sound, but they were a bit worse because in terms of loading. But yeah, we have Nintendo 3DS. And yeah, these play pretty well on this console. You have to bear in mind that the 3DS system had a touchscreen component, touchscreen half. So some games that require touch may be a bit tricksy to play. But for the most part, you can play most of these games fairly easily without too many issues. And again, it has a great collection, and because you have all of that free disk space on the 4TB hard drive, you can just fill it up, increase the numbers. But as you can see, this is F1 2011. It's running pretty well. It's been upscaled, I think 2x. I think you can go up to 5x, 4x, 5x on the resolution scale. But it looks really good. It runs really well. I think it's like a locked 60, no it's not, it says 45 frames per second, 48, 50. But it seems like it runs really well. It's very responsive. So if I can just quickly go into the emulator, using the remote control, and go into the settings. And there you go, it's 2x on the resolution, not 4x. But you can reduce down to 1x and get faster speeds if you want to. But yeah, I'm not playing too many 3DS games on this console anyway, to be fair. So we've got N64. Again, N64 is fairly easy to emulate nowadays. However, some games may be a bit difficult to play due to the N64 controller layout. It's very different to what we use for modern control pads. So it can take a bit of getting used to, or you might need to reconfigure some controls if you find it difficult to use the default controls that are already laid out in this emulator. But I mean, games like GoldenEye, it's a classic. But I'm not gonna lie, like I'm so used to playing Call of Duty and them kind of games there that I found it a little bit difficult to control. Just using one joystick to turn, move forward, rotate. It's kind of hard. But I mean, I've had an N64 and I love this game, so it wasn't too hard to get back into after a bit of time. Here's another classic from N64, which is the wrestling game. WCW versus NWO, which I actually had on my, I think I still have it for my N64, which is collecting dust right now. But yeah, it was just such a fun game, especially when you're playing with your friends. It's just a blast, absolute blast. And to be fair, I think that playing N64 via emulation is the best way to play it, because the video output of the N64, the actual console itself, was pretty poor, in my opinion. It had low resolution, and yeah, the graphics always kind of seemed very smurry and blurry. Even back in the day when I was playing on the CRT with my N64, it just looked horrible. It used to give me headaches playing on the N64 because it just felt like there was Vaseline all over the CRT screen. Because it was just a combination of low resolution, sometimes low frame rate, etc., etc. But anyway, let's get back to the NDS. Another great format, great console. I have not many games on this, but at the same time, you know, you have got a good core of the good games that you do want to play. Game and Watch here, I've already added myself. I already scraped it, as you can see, but I'm not going to be playing too many of these because, let's be honest, a lot of the Game & Watch games were boring and very limited. They weren't much fun, but they were much fun back then when you was a child, because that's all you had to play. But here we go, we got the Game Boy, which is another good collection. It looks really good, it plays really good, it's been upscaled, so it looks great on the TV screen. Has a CRT filter, so it does not CRT filter, an LCD filter, so it kind of has that kind of feel of an old school LCD screen, but without all the smeariness that you used to get on the Nintendo Game Boy. So everything's pretty sharp. The smeariness on the Game Boy really sucked, to be honest. It's like there's just so much ghosting when you're playing fast games. But yeah, we have the classic, obviously, Tetris. Just to show you what it looks like using the filters. It looks good, it plays good. Game Boy Advance had a great collection of games as well. I think this is one of the first 32-bit handheld consoles. So yeah, Nintendo went in. And again, it has an LCD filter, has a really nice bezels. All these bezels can be changed, by the way. And I had to check out Altered Beast because this is the first time I've seen Altered Beast on the Game Boy Advance. So definitely have to dip into it, because I remember playing it on the Sega Genesis, or the Mega Drive, what we used to call it in the UK, Sega Mega Drive. And I remember it being such a hard game to play. And kind of boring, because all you do is just kick and punch and go in a straight line, and you're kind of forced to go forward. I guess that's what progress looks like. But yeah, this looks a lot better than the Genesis version, or the Mega Drive version, should I say, because it's got parallel scrolling. You can see the stuff in the backgrounds moving at a different speed to the foreground. More detailed, more stuff going on. Earthquakes, okay, that's new. Yeah, that's cool. I think another thing I need to mention is that when you close out some of these games, it saves the state, so it saves exactly where you was in that game. So when you dip back in, exactly where you left off, if you choose to. So yeah, here we go. GameCube runs very, very well. Sometimes you need to go back into the game, because sometimes it kicks you out. But no more than twice you need to go in to get it to run. So I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe it's to do with the emulator, I'm not sure. But yeah, it all works perfectly. It runs at the frame rate it's supposed to. So the emulator, if you look on the top right hand side, it says VPS. That's the speed that the emulator is running at. FPS is the speed that the game is running at. So the game plays at 30 FPS, pretty much, and the emulator is running at its full speed of 60 FPS. So the 30 FPS is probably just the lock down to the game. The game is locked at 30 FPS. So the game plays at 30 FPS, even though the emulator runs at 60. If you get what I'm saying. But yeah, this is another cool game. A lot of fun. You just smash your stuff. This is just a port of an arcade game. Of course, we have NES, so Super NES, and you have the whole collection here. I mean, pretty much your watch can play NES games nowadays, Super NES games. So I'm not really going to delve too deeply into this. Just want to quickly show you what the bezels look like, what the CRT filter looks like when you're playing this game. As you can see, it kind of looks really good. And I think, 2026, playing these kind of games on an OLED screen is amazing. Absolutely amazing. You don't get the kind of motion feel that you get with a CRT screen, but you get the fidelity, you get the contrast. It's just, yeah, the blacks are black. These games look great. They look better than they ever have. So yeah, let's have a look at Nintendo Switch. I'm not going to really delve too deeply into this, mainly because only got a couple games working on it. It's a bit hit or miss. This CPU in this device is not built for Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch is kind of harder to emulate. It can run basic games like the Contra game, which is basically a very lightweight game. But anything a bit more complicated like Super Mario, it's not really going to work out. It needs something a bit more power to run those games. So basically this is almost like an emulated game running within an emulated console. Which is probably why it runs so well. But yeah, it's just Contra, yo. I mean, I got like 10 different copies of this on this device itself, to be fair. So there are better ways of playing this game. But yeah, I give up. So we got Virtual Boy there. Virtual Boy is one of Nintendo's failed consoles. It didn't really work out. It wasn't a particularly good console, but it was an interesting one, that's for sure. So yeah, I think this is pretty much the full collection of Virtual Boy games. We've got Nintendo Wii. We don't have many games for this, but we have the core games that you kind of do want to play, such as GoldenEye. We've got the Mario games, we've got the Kirby's. And Tatsunoko versus Capcom, which is such an amazing game. I mean, I have to show you this game. It's just such a weird, random thing. And there's such interesting characters. I do believe it was from a TV series or manga, one of the two. And they kind of blended it in with some Street Fighter Capcom characters. But yeah, you can just see it's just so bright, so vibrant, so it just makes you want to play it, let's just say that. And you can see my main character here is absolutely ridiculous. He's just a giant golden gang of cubes and rectangles. And as you can see, it plays really well. It runs at pretty much at 60 FPS. And this is I'm not sure if this is one of the more challenging Wii games, but I think pretty much all Wii games on this device pretty much run at full speed. So you're not gonna have any problems there. And like I said, you can always add more games if you miss certain games, you want certain games that are not on here. You can add these very easily. Just use a USB drive, copy it over, stick it on the console, boom. But yeah, this is just so much fun. The size of the character, the fact that he's so big that he overlays over the health bars. That's crazy work. I love it. I think there should be a new version, a remastered version for modern day consoles, for sure. Thomas Wave, another cool arcade format. Really interesting games, a lot of Japanese games, Japanese only games. But yeah, it's just good stuff. Good stuff here. Yeah, Fist of the North Star definitely stands out due to the fact that I was such a big fan of the anime. So to be able to play the game, awesome, absolutely awesome. As you can see, it's got the CRT style, but it hasn't. Has it got the CRT filter? Not really, but it doesn't matter. It looks really good. Looks really crisp.
The time of retribution. Battle 1. Decide the destiny.
The interesting thing is that this game runs at about 30 FPS. Well, no, 60 FPS. It started at 30 FPS, so I guess the frame counter wasn't counting it properly. However, 60 FPS arcade game makes sense. But yeah, this is a battle between the two classic characters from the movie. You know, Ken is that guy. Hart was a bit of a git that in the movie Ken had to remove from this world. Should I say? You know, if you've not watched Fist of the North Star, you definitely got to check that out. It should be very easy to see on these streaming networks. So go watch that. It's a classic anime, great fun, wild as hell, a lot of funky stuff going on, but definitely get with that. So as you can see, that runs perfectly well as well. Yeah, so here we have Sega CD. Another failure, should I say, for the Sega gang. Wasn't too many games for it, but it had some very interesting games. A lot of full motion video games, or a lot of games that contained CD quality music. Interesting device, but wasn't very successful. And Dreamcast here is one of my favorite consoles of all time, and I say that because it has some of the greatest games of all time. One of the best console conversions, which was Marvel vs. Capcom, which is such an amazing game. It's arcade perfect. Classics such as Crazy Taxi, which I'm about to demonstrate here. Excuse me. And this is another example of one of the arcade games which has been ported over to the Dreamcast, which is literally like arcade perfect because they used Naomi boards in the arcade for this game. So it was almost like a one-to-one copy of the arcade game for the home market. And it's so much fun. This game has got a great soundtrack, amazing graphics. As you can see, it runs at 60 FPS. And I feel like it's dated really, really, really well because just simply because of the bright, vibrant colours, which looks especially good nowadays on modern TVs, modern OLED TVs especially. As you can see, it runs perfectly well. It's got the really cool bezels. And yeah, just so much fun to kind of relive these old games using this platform. Here we have the Sega Game Gear, which is such a classic console back from the early 90s. Sega Genesis. We also have a good selection of games on the Master System. I think it's almost a complete collection. Mega Drive 32X, which has a complete collection. I believe there wasn't too many games for it. Naomi, which is essentially what the Dreamcast was based on, which has pretty much the whole selection of arcade games. And there's so many fun games on this platform for the arcades. And a lot of these games were ported over to the Dreamcast so you can play them at home. But luckily, with this 4TB drive, we get to experience both, compare both, you know. And here's the Sega Saturn. And as I said previously, this doesn't run particularly well on this console. Some games run well, some games don't. It's more down to obviously the power of the console and the emulator. It struggles a little bit with certain games, with certain demands. But yeah, quite a few games do run very well. The more basic stuff, the 2D stuff, the 3D stuff is more of a challenge, which I'm about to show you here with Sega Rally. So it starts off well, running at 60 FPS. Had to restart it. Occasionally you get little glitches like that where you start the game, it crashes out and you have to start the game again, but you get there in the end. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how it plays with a more challenging game on this platform. And to be fair, games like Sega Rally, you can play it on the other platforms. I think, is there a copy of Naomi or in MAME? One of the two. So you can get a better representation of this game not using the Sega Saturn emulator. As you can see, it's running at 52 FPS rather than 60. Occasionally it will drop down to 45, 46. So it's running between 75% to 80, 85% of the speed that it should be running at. It should be running at 60 FPS locked. But occasionally it hits 60 FPS. But it doesn't quite do it. And to be fair, it does actually play and feel okay to play. It just feels slightly slower than it should be. Stuff like Street Fighter runs perfectly okay because again it's a 2D game, so it's not particularly challenging for this emulator and this console chipset. House of the Dead is also another cool game, but again this uses a lot of 3D polygons, which is a bit challenging for this emulator and this chipset. So as you can see, it's running at 60 FPS at the moment because the loading screen is not that challenging. But again, this is using like a CRT filter, I believe. So it kind of gives you that feel of the old school CRT TVs. But this is one of my favourite games from the arcade, back in the arcade era. We had the light guns. Ain't gonna lie, I prefer the Dreamcast version. And the Dreamcast version runs at 60 FPS, ironically, with less demand on the hardware. Again, this is running at 52, 53, 54 FPS at times. We should be running at 60 locked. But, you know, even though it's not running at full speed, it does actually play okay. Just a little bit slower, a little bit of clipping. But not the best experience, should I say. Three Dirty Dwarfs, a game I never heard of before. It was really random. See another Sega consoles, SG-1000. We had the Sharp SX-6800. You know, again, a very good selection of games that I'll probably never play. Neo Geo is a classic because it has such great 2D games. Neo Geo CD, kind of more the same thing, but CD, you know, quality sound. Neo Geo Pocket, another great little console. Not many games for it, but a good selection. And the colour version again has similar games. I believe it's the full collection. But yeah, it looks really cool. I mean, it'd be great to compare the Neo Geo Pocket to the WonderSwan colour to the Game Boy Color. Just see the differences between the various platforms using this console. PlayStation, again, has a great selection of games. And it'll be cool to kind of go through this and explore some of the titles that I never got to experience in my PlayStation game era, should I say. See, I'm just firing up Ace Combat because I'm going to kind of chop through, edit through to some of the cutscenes, kind of get to the game so you can see exactly how it runs, as you can see. So yeah, it's running a lot, 60 FPS. No problems at all emulating this console. It's got a really cool bezels with the PlayStation controller in the background. And Yeah, it runs well, feels good, looks great. But yeah, PlayStation was a really good platform back in the day. Had such a huge selection of games. When the first consoles to kind of do 3D, you know, their bendy, swirly kind of polygons and on straight lines in 3D, but it's all good. PlayStation 2, another great console. Classics like San Andreas. I think PlayStation 2 is, again, like the Dreamcast, one of my favorite consoles of all time. I think Dreamcast just kind of tops it, but I always love PlayStation 2 for the fact that I got to play and experience San Andreas when it came out back in those days. And it was a game like none other. So if you're not playing San Andreas, I mean, I definitely recommend that you experience it on using emulation. Obviously, there's been a remake, a remaster, sorry, should I say, of the GTA games from that era, especially San Andreas, but those remakes are not very good, should I say. Yes, they sharpen up the visuals, but they kind of lose the spirit of the original games. So yeah, PSP minis, which are kind of like basically just mobile games almost. They have a really good selection here, but I don't think I ever played them. PSP, again, a good selection, 800 games, but that's not the full collection. And it has all the classics such as God of War. Now, to be fair, the PSP had some really great games on there. A large variety of games. And using this emulator, you can run these games at 2x to 3x resolution, which means they look really good on the big screen. So I'm just going to show you what God of War looks like. Ghost of Sparta, which is one of the more challenging games to emulate, but using this emulator and this chipset, it's not a problem at all. So as you can see, it's running at 60 FPS, not a problem at all. It's running at 2x, I believe, 2x resolution. No slowdowns, no issues. I mean, you're playing this in the best possible way. A lot better experience than playing on the original PSP. I mean, I've got the original PSP, and obviously it runs really well on its original hardware. But that screen, man, the LCD screen on my PSP is a bit of a smeary, smudgy kind of mess with low contrast. It doesn't look good, bruv. It don't look good. Whereas playing it on the OLED TV using this platform, fantastic. So yeah, I walked you through the Kinhank Pro. This is basically probably one of the best emulation consoles you can buy in 2026. It still goes, it still bangs hard. So go get that. It's plug and play, easy to live with. So yeah, please like, subscribe. If you like this video, want to see more content, let me know. Peace.